I believe that the U.S. military is currently involved in an attack on their own country. Part of this attack is an economic attack, which is bankrupting and destabilizing the middle class because they want to eliminate the middle class and ultimately switch to a socialist and then communist society. The same thing has happened all over the world in countries like Russia and China, in countries in South America. The different communist militaries in all these different countries will attack the civilians of their own country. And they will say that these civilians are actually rebels who do not like the new communist government. So they will come out to fight the military units that march through their villages. However, in reality, these communist militaries specifically go into certain areas to kill masses of people, to take over that region. They want the civilians' property. They want the civilians' farms. They want their livestock. They want their businesses. They want everything that these civilians own. These communist militaries exist to attack the self-sustained middle class of their own country, because that is the enemy of communism and socialism. Independent middle-class civilians. The communist government then consumes everything that these people own, which becomes government property. If you read books such as the Communist Manifesto, you will understand that a major goal of communism is to wipe out the middle class and then take away everyone's private property rights. They don't want anyone with the right to own their own land. So these middle class property owners are killed or forced off their lands by the military, and the survivors are directed into cities where they are given welfare apartments to live in. Then the government determines who will get a job and who will barely get by on a welfare check. However, in a socialist or communist state, there are a lot less jobs available due to the fact that the military's goal is to wipe out the middle class of that country. And it is the middle class who own most of the businesses and farms that everyone used to work at. The Communist Manifesto will tell you their little fairy tale that through communism, everyone gets a place to stay, everyone gets food stamps to buy groceries, everyone gets things like free health care. So everyone is equal and free in a socialist or communist run society. But what they don't tell you is that since the government supplies you with all these things, they can also take away all of these things whenever they want. So if the government doesn't like you, they could cause any one of their civilians to be made homeless at any time and for any reason, such as you complaining to your neighbors that you do not like the new communist government. What these different militaries have found out is that many people can disappear after being made homeless, and often their friends and family will accept homelessness as an excuse for their disappearance. In other words, they might ask, "Where did John go? I heard he was kicked out because he was opening up his windows when he wanted to, and the landlord didn't like that, and he was homeless for a while, and I guess he maybe moved to a different city." So people will accept other people disappearing more often if they hear that they were made homeless. Also, it is very easy to attack and kill someone when they're homeless. They could sneak up on anyone at night who's asleep out in the woods or in a park and easily kill that person. Also, the general public tends to consider homeless people to be lazy, that they are addicted to drugs or alcohol, or they are crazy. So it's their own poor choices that have caused them to be homeless. That's what most people believe. How many times have you seen a homeless person standing on the street corner looking desperate, crazy, or even ranting to himself? And if that homeless person begins to say, "There's this gang of people after me, they won't leave me alone," how many people are going to try to help that homeless person out? who is going to try to help him, especially if the cops are given the order to ignore him if he tries to complain to them. So people usually will not help or listen to a homeless person. And what they don't know is that most of these homeless people used to have jobs. Some of them had very important jobs and nice places to live up until a few months ago when they were fired from their jobs and evicted from their houses through this criminal process perpetuated by the corporate-run military. When some of you have looked up the New World Order and have heard that there is this plan, this top secret plan of the military to go house to house, kicking down doors and rounding up protesters and dissidents, and then putting them all into concentration camps or FEMA camps. This is a misrepresentation of reality. The sad truth is that the military is going to go from house to house, kicking down doors, but they're going to do this one house at a time with all the legal paperwork they need to lawfully kick you out of your house so that you are on the street where they could kill you off one at a time. The government is not going to round up all the dissidents and protesters and put you all into a concentration camp and then feed and clothe you so you could all meet each other and all make connections and all form an army against them, because that would be counterproductive to the military. They know that it's a lot easier to kill people off one house at a time, one guy at a time, so nobody else figures out what is happening and that nobody works together to stop them. If this reality is not bad enough, there is another level of this government crime that came into being with the development of the internet and video recorders. What the military found out is that a certain population of sick people are very interested in looking at graphic and violent images of accidents, war scenes, and crime photos on the internet. That's the only thing they look for on the internet, and they can never get enough. Every time they get on the internet, they look for more and more and more of that. So the next step was for the military to record violent scenes and then sell those on the internet. So the development of snuff films became a reality where people were tortured, raped, and killed on video. So in the disturbed minds of those who run the U.S. military, if their job was to attack America and wipe out the middle class for the socialist communist agenda, why not record some of those murders, sell them as snuff films, and make even more money? So after investigating this, I believe that the military found that the best way to disguise these executions and war crimes against Americans that were now being video recorded was to make it seem that these murders were being carried out by impoverished rednecks and insane criminals living in the poorest and worst places around. As you can see from these examples, in many areas that I've investigated, there are these locations that seem to be kept in this state to hide the fact that the military is involved in the filming and distribution of snuff films. If you watch all the investigations that I have on this channel, you will start to notice a common thing, and that is in these areas that I investigate, I always see places that are kept in an extremely disheveled state. And often, these disheveled areas are found in otherwise nice places, like in upscale communities, like right near a golf course. So I believe that many of these locations are areas where snuff films are being filmed. The same is true with an area I found in Hancock, New Hampshire. So you will see in this last part of the video entitled Juggernaut Coven. This area is found on a road identified with a street sign that says Tired Iron Drive. But if you look it up on MapQuest, it says Tire Iron Drive, not tired. It is located about 2 minutes away from Eaton Road in Hancock, New Hampshire. At first, I thought it was something like a metal scrapyard,